Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with some brand new music. This is Holy Fawn's latest single from a couple of days ago called Beneath a Lightless Star. I'm pretty stoked about this. Holy Fawn sits in an interesting place where it's kind of gazy, kind of posty, and usually an interesting listen. So, let's dive into this, see what Holy Fawn is bringing to the table today. Yeah, very compressed, feels very close, but it feels flat. That's what it is. There's distance, but it feels compressed down. So much darkness in this chord progression. Okay. Okay. Ah, dude, the bass, the sparse use of the snare, the hitting of the metallic part of the drum kit. It's all these little details really coming together. The vocals way on the outside. Dude, that vocal stack is gnarly, but then you also bring in this piercing guitar tone that cut through the atmosphere. Oh, dude. such an uncomfortable sound with the guitars on the outside, like alarms. Yeah. This one's interesting too because I usually, like I said, I kind of understand them to be somewhere in like a post metal area with the wall of sound, big texture work, but also with like a shoegazy kind of lighter indie rock vibe as well. And we kind of see both of the sounds here, but something about the heavier part feels less metalcore and more blown out, or sorry, less post metal and more blown out metalcore. This this appeals to me more than they usually do on a casual level. Holy Fawn is a group that I've enjoyed in the past from an artistic side, something that I really enjoy what they're doing and how they're doing it, even though sonically it's not typically my cup of tea, but this right here has me sold. I'm going to have to, when's this album come out? Does not say. I'm going to have to look. I'm going to have to see what's up. Because I don't want this one to fly under my radar. I've got to. Although I think they have another single out. I'm gonna have to look into that. Regardless, I'm excited. This song, it gets me, and I get it. This is great stuff. Atmosphere is really important on this track. We have two forms of it, but they're both interlinked. We have the lighter side of things. Basically, a lot of the similar ideas in the heavier side, just with less intense instrumentation. And this actually opens up a lot of space. And I think that this is the most important part. Harmonically, there's not a lot of difference between the two. A feeling of lost, feeling of sorrow. The anger, I think, is kind of present primarily in the heavier section, but it's still a negative emotion that ties on to the feelings of loss and feeling lost and being sad. And it's just a natural extension of some of those feelings that we have in the lighter section. But without all of the big instruments taking up so much space in the heavier one, we actually have a lot of room left over. And we actually see quite a bit of distinct layering. And I want to focus on this versus the unified layering that we get in the big sections. Here we have a lot of not disparate, but unique parts that all sort of come together to create a rather intricate collection of harmonies and textures and rhythms. I really like the way all of this comes together, particularly that second light section with the moving bass line and the textures coming off the guitar and the metal playing on the drums, interspersing that occasionally with a snare roll, but mostly working with some of the metallic parts. Maybe it's the rim of the snare, maybe it's the stand that holds a cymbal up or the snare up or something like that. I feel like there was also some electronic sounds in there too, kind of, again, sparsely used like the snare. So maybe they also had some sort of drum pad. I feel like those are becoming more popular with bands these days for the drummer to have like a 4x4 row of drum pads off to the side that they can use to trigger electronic drum sounds during a set. I don't know. It just feels like a while ago you'd rarely see them at live settings or in music videos or live recordings or anything like that. But now I feel like a lot of bands are using them, not necessarily as a core component of this music, but occasionally, maybe during one interlude, they'll need it. And so more drummers are using them now. It's interesting. Um, but yeah, like I said, lots of space, lots of room for intricate detail. We don't really have that in the heavier sections. Everything is unified to create a sense of largeness, a singular monolithic idea. It feels vast, it feels overpowering, it feels weighty. But what I really love about it is that it isn't completely singular. And I think this is what elevates them a little bit for me. Sure, there is a wall of sound. There's usually the drums, the bass, and a guitar that are all focused in on this one massive sound following a pretty simple rhythm that's going to define the pulse for the section. But on the outskirts of that, there's electronic sounds going on, there's guitar textures, there's guitar melodies, there's little flourishy ideas. There's a lot of movement on the outskirts of it. Now, granted, there's not a lot of room on the outskirts. This monolithic, post-metal wall of sound is taking up a lot of space. And within that, you also have the vocals, the core, like higher pitched vocals, but you also have the layers that are spread throughout the wall as well. And on the little bit on the outside, they fill that in with these little textures, these little harmonies, melodies, little ornamental ideas. It provides something to listen to besides the crushing weight of these chords. Now, granted, they don't really create any levity. A lot of them are for tension, dissonance, more weight. It's still stuff that adds to the uneasy feeling of everything. But it just isn't part of that monolithic sound. And I like that. To have layers, to have extra parts, to have a little bit of melody alongside the textured weight of the atmosphere. It elevates it for me, primarily because everyone doing the same thing just doesn't always work for me. I can emotionally attach to that, but maybe it's not something I like to listen to. Maybe it works as a dynamic. Maybe you have more moving parts and then you have this monolithic singular heavy part to contrast more dynamic elements. Yeah, I can be on board for that. But when it comes to a lot of post metal, at least what I've been exposed to, a lot of it is like, it's this one heavy sound, and that's how it is for every part of the song, for multiple songs in a row on an album. And that just, it gets boring for me. There's only so long I can be, entertained or engaged with purely emotional textural music. There needs to be a little bit more to it, more layers, more melody, more harmony, something else that's going to grab me. And I think that's where this song in particular, and hopefully more Holy Fawn, it's where they strive, where they're working in a way that I can get attached to. And it's what I love about this section. I can still feel the weight. I can still feel the heaviness of it all. It feels crushing. But I can also dip away for that for a moment and still find, it doesn't subvert, it doesn't destroy any of the emotion of it, but I can still find some other stuff to check out on the outskirts. And it contributes to the overall feeling of tension, of unease, of general dissonance and weight. I mean, even when we talk about the vocal stacks here, which are ridiculous, I really love them. I'm curious to see the production side of things to these, but they provide the weight too. It isn't just a singular vocal. Like I mentioned, they're kind of spread out across the wall. It feels like, because like with vocals, you can either get a stack that's in a single place, or like when we listen to older 70s music, right? Not to say this is the only place, but it feels very prominent there, where you have your center vocal and your panned vocals, and you get harmonies that way. those feel very distinct. You have center, you have right, and you have left. But this isn't that. This is like taking a knife and spreading the vocals across the song like you would with butter or jelly. It's it's wild. It feels wide. It almost feels like there are an infinite amount of different vocal techniques going on here, from growls to screeches to screams, and even having like, I don't know, pitch shifted versions of those different ones. And then you kind of like spread them out with these tiny increments. And it feels like it's a spectrum of harshes. It's one of the wildest things I've ever heard. And I know that they didn't go about recording 56 takes of vocals to do this. um, as far as I can tell, this is a production thing going on, maybe some reverb and pitch shift. I don't know. I'd like to see what the producer did for this, because it is such an affecting end result. It really blew my mind to hear in those moments, but it also adds to this crushing weight, this homogeneity of sounds. It works in a way that having, a harsh vocal center and maybe like a growl left and a fry scream right, like it wouldn't capture the same idea, even if it was not fully 90 degrees. If it was like center then like off to the left and right, it still wouldn't capture the same vibe. Whatever happened here is wild, and it is what it was exactly needed for this specific song, to have this sort of density and weight, but also, I don't know, lacking distinction. There isn't a pitch I would call home to this. There really isn't a point that I would call the core vocal. Sometimes your center is going to be louder than your harmonies, which might be put off to the side. So like, this is the core sound, these are the harmonized sounds. It isn't that. It just feels singular in a way that harmonized vocals don't usually. It blows my mind. I really like what's going on there. And like I said, once again, it's something else I can appreciate, something that I can, wrap my head around, that I can attempt to understand, that doesn't remove anything from what the song's trying to do. It absolutely embellishes on what the instrumentation is, but is more, is different, is contrast, something else. And that's really where this song, I think, elevates for me on both sides. It's always about the little details, and I think that's where their strengths are as a band. There is a third part to all of this, though, a very electronic element. We had a little bit of interesting texture work at the beginning during the 404 error part of the music video. And then towards the end, we had almost some straight up like glitch electronic stuff. I like it. I think glitch works really well with this because it creates more layers of almost, in a sense, destruction. It's what creates a lot of the unease, the dissonance. It's about taking the things that aren't typically heard positively and creating something positive out of it. Not that they're making a song that feels uplifting, but that it all works in ways to positively drive home a specific reaction, journey, or emotion. And putting in these more destructive electronic elements, I think, works really well with this song that's already going for this direction in, both the heavier and the softer parts. It's about this decay almost. It's about the negative factor in all of it. Like I mentioned, the sorrow, the loneliness, the feeling lost, the anger, all of that comes together and feels only amplified because of any glitchy, destructive elements in the electronic composition. It's definitely something I think that's going to warrant a couple extra listens to kind of get a larger picture on everything. But even on this surface level, there's so much to appreciate in the ways that they bring all of these different elements together and put little twists on them in order to turn them into, what would be pretty typical post-metal music or pretty typical shoegaze music, and bring it into Holy Fawn music. and really put their stamp on it. Let me hit some lyrics here, see what's going on there, and then we're going to wrap this video up. And I can't find any lyrics yet. Maybe it's just a hair bit too soon. I did pick up a couple of lyrics from the music video, but it's not a lyric video, and we only get like 4 lines at the beginning of the song, and then it's like the video maker decided, yeah, it's not a lyric video. Why am I putting lyrics in here? And there weren't any in like the back half of the video. So with the screamed vocals, I really can't pick anything up myself. There's definitely an element of nature in here. Maybe a little bit of destruction of nature, but also a way of finding ourselves back into nature and finding that balance again between humanity and nature. But I can't like pair any of this back to the title of the song, Beneath a Lightless Star. The only thing that makes me think of is a dead star, where we are still seeing the light, but the star itself is not sending light anymore. It has died out. But I don't know if that's the proper interpretation of that. And even if it is, I don't know how to work that in. Well, the death of something natural, but we continue to use some residual elements of it. Like maybe that could be interpreted into the way that we as a species deal with nature and use nature. But without knowing more of the lyrics, I think I'm grasping at straws here and kind of focusing on hypotheses. What if the rest of the song went in this direction? So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to talk about that here, but maybe once the lyrics get posted, let me make a reminder for myself. Maybe I'll put a pinned post where I discussed my take on the lyrics and how they work with the music when the lyrics actually get posted, and I can do that. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. Those are my thoughts on Holy Fawn's Beneath a Lightless Star. What did you think of this? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe if you have your own interpretation or opinion on this, please put all of that and any other thoughts you have down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to check out an entire album. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.